After 4 years, Brawl is finally getting its first bans. That's right, somebody is actually managing the Brawl format, which is incredible because that's the format I play every day. Yesterday was the major ban announcements. They actually moved this ban announcement up from mid-November to November 10th, so it would happen before the Avatar set comes out. And they banned, very importantly, some big cards from Standard, but they also banned cards from Pioneer, Legacy, Pauper, pre-banned cards in Historic, and they banned 4 cards in Brawl. The last time they banned cards in Brawl was actually in December of 2021. That is how long it has been since they have, well, managed the format, other than just randomly printing cards into it. This video, we're going to be talking about all these bans. We're going to be talking about the significance of there being bans at all, and talk about some other strange things that this ban announcement revealed, because it actually announced cards, which is a weird way to get information. So with Standard, just briefly going to touch on that, Vivi was banned. You knew this was going to happen. There was an article about it before. Vivi's a problem. Seriously, he's a major problem. We all know he's a problem. He taps for mana. Or he doesn't tap for mana, I should say. In Brawl, he taps for mana. In this, he just 0 ability makes the mana, which means that you could do it even though he had Summoning Sickness, put him underneath Agatha's Soul Cauldron, do it for free. Also, he was pinging your opponent in the face every time he did it, and getting huge, and then he could attack. Screaming Nemesis has been banned from the format. This negated life gain dex. It was an incredibly strong aggro card, and I've heard it called a minimum of 3 bolts because it has haste, hits you for 3. Then, if you block it and want to kill it, you have to deal 3 damage to it, so it's going to deal 3 damage to the thing it blocked and another damage to wherever it would like to go. And then Prophetic Memory is here to make the blue tempo decks and the Spellslinger decks a little bit weaker post-ban. So these are very much 3 relevant bans, but are they enough bans? I don't actually think so. I would have liked to see more bans to Standard, because now I'm pretty sure that the Demir Tempo deck, which is the one that's running Enduring Curiosity, and the Cavero / Superior Spider-Man deck, that's the Bringer of Last Gifts decks, are going to be very strong. And part of that is because the Bringer deck no longer has to face as much main decked graveyard hate. That would be the Agatha's Soul Cauldron. And so you're going to see a lot of people reanimating their entire graveyard all in one turn, and it's going to be kind of wild. So these 3 are banned. In Pioneer, Heartfire Hero was banned. Yes, that's right, the uncommon mouse. It was also banned in Standard. It's a problem, and the deck gets out of hand. It was pretty much exactly the same as the Standard deck. It's running Monstrous Rage. It's, aggro. Then we have in Legacy, Entomb being banned, and Nadu being banned. All right, you've already heard why Nadu's a problem 1,000 times, but if you didn't, it's because you can take pretty much unlimited game actions, empty your entire deck, and then, I don't know, fast as Oracle for a win. It's a weird combo enabler that protected itself in an obnoxious way, and if you had ways to freely equip things or landfall triggers, could just keep going and going and going and going. And then Entomb being banned, this is actually much bigger. This was a 1-mana instant tutor, which allowed you to put any creature from your deck into your graveyard. Actually, technically any card, but it was used for creatures like Atraxa, Grizzlebrand, and then you use the spell Reanimate to bring them back, gain back the life, and win the game, because you could pull that off on the first turns. So yeah, this being banned is just to say you better pay 2 mana at minimum to put things in the graveyard, or maybe 3 mana. And this is because it's horribly powerful, it's obnoxious, and it goes infinite way too easily. Yes, Entomb has been shaping Legacy, and this is one of those, it had to happen eventually, because the only other option is to ban the things that people are reanimating, which requires a lot more bans. So I think that that's an interesting choice, but I think it's a good one. Now, on to the arena-only formats, which so rarely receive attention. Historic. Force of Negation is pre-banned. Force of Negation? Oh yeah, it's coming in the Avatar bonus sheet. Frantic Search, this was technically in the Cube, but it is also in the Jumpstart set, is being pre-banned. Mystical Tutor, Entomb, and Dark Depths. Dark Depths, going to be on the bonus sheet, but Entomb and Mystical Tutor, these were both cards in the Arena Cube. The semi-vintage cube is called the Powered Cube. And you'd be thinking, well, wait, sure, they were in the cube, but they weren't cards being printed into Arena. Why are they being pre-banned? They're not coming to Arena. According to the gallery for Avatar: The Last Airbender and the statement made on Weekly MTG, the Commander bundle is not something that was supposed to be added to digital, to Magic: The Gathering Arena, which is apparently just straight up a lie. I'll talk about that more later because of how it impacts Brawl. Brawl, being of course the most important format, which we should always be talking about, has 4 bans. Strip Mine, thank God. Mana Drain, finally. Chrome Mox, get it out of here. Ancient Tomb, I never want to see you again in my life, except maybe in like a vintage cube. These 4 cards deserve their bans. In fact, they should have never been added to the format. What makes all 4 of these cards similar? Fast mana. Strip Mine, that was being played in mana accelerating decks to destroy your opponent's mana, essentially putting you ahead on lands. It isn't giving you the fast mana, it's denying your opponent the mana. Mana Drain countered and then gave you mana. Chrome Mox was a way to get 2 mana on turn 1, and so was Ancient Tomb. And if you used these in conjunction with some other things in Dark Rituals, you could get out 4 mana cards on turn 1, and yes, I have seen it before, it's terrifying. Now, these 4 cards were very, very prevalent in decks. In fact, almost every single blue deck I have, if it was just 1 or 2 or 3 colors, had a Mana Drain in it. Almost every deck that had a 1, 2, or 3 cost commander, I was running Chrome Mox. Ancient Tomb, if I had something to ramp to, or even just 2 colorless pips in my commander's mana cost, Ancient Tomb was going in the deck, and Strip Mine was a better Field of Ruin. It was also used to loop from the graveyard using Ice-Till Explorer and Renin 6 to repeatedly destroy lands. These 4 cards should have never been in Brawl, and they actually haven't been in Brawl that long. Of these 4 cards, they're pretty much all from the last year, and one of them is from a year and a half ago. Strip Mine and Ancient Tomb were both on the bonus sheet for Edge of Eternities. Chrome Mox was from Aether Drift, and Mana Drain was from Thunder Junction. You can actually tell by like the styles that they show here where they were all reprinted and where they were all added to Brawl. Now, these 4 cards being gone, great. You're wondering why not rebalance them? It's a digital-only format. The reason for that is they're all iconic cards and they're trying not to ever rebalance those. It's also because they have announced that they're going to be no longer just leaving Brawl to fester. They're going to be managing it. We actually have somebody working on digital formats now, Daniel up here, who wrote this article, who has never responded to my emails. Come on, Daniel. Email me back. Gavin introduced us. Please email me back. Is going to be looking at the data for the format and doing some management, and also, I believe, adjusting some alchemy cards potentially in the future, the digital-only printed cards. Now, do I have hopes for the format in the future? Yes, but I'm also worried because part of this article suggests that we may be getting a secondary Brawl queue that's ranked. Now, a lot of people really want that. I personally don't. I think that a ranked Brawl queue is going to impact all Brawl in a negative way. It is going to help stagnate the format. It is going to make it much less interesting, and it will unless it is heavily managed, heavily managed, cause a lot of bad gameplay, a lot of the same decks just matching into each other. And I'm not just talking about in ranked, I'm talking about outside of ranked. In Arena, you're really only rewarded for winning, so people will always take the most winningest decks. And you're saying, well, Amy, but there's the matchmaking. Yes, and if everybody is running the top decks except for a few people, those top decks will match into the other people and honestly raffle stomp them. Like, we don't need our Nadus, we don't need the Johnnies, we don't need those decks matching into everybody else. Now, that said, if Brawl gets ranked, it's not the end of the world. I think, isn't great for the format. What I would actually like to see is a ranked gladiator queue. I think a ranked gladiator queue is the next thing we should get. Gladiator, by the way, being 100 card singleton with no digitally rebalanced cards and a hearty ban list. It is the format made by Benjamin Wheeler of Loading Ready Run. You should check out all of his channels because he's a really rad guy. Now, we got 4 cards banned. Is that enough? Absolutely not, but it is such a step in the right direction. After 4 years, they have changed something. Now, up until yesterday, the banned and restricted list on the Wizards website for Brawl did not even include most of the cards banned in Brawl. They straight up just ignored the fact that the format exists, even though it is the second most played format in Arena. That's right, it's Standard, then Historic Brawl, now called Brawl. Now, one of the things that's been banned in Brawl pretty much since the start are all of the, I guess I'll call them the pithing needle effects, and things that let you name particular cards and stop some of their abilities. Those cards are one of the things that have been banned from the format. And do they need to be banned? No. Why are they banned? I'm pretty sure most of them are banned because they turned off Planeswalkers as commanders, which is important because otherwise Planeswalkers as commanders are really hard to get rid of. You know what Pithing Needle would have really helped against? Strip Mine. They tutor for Strip Mine, you tutor for the Needle, and then they can't Strip Mine you. Or you hit their Wrenn and 6, so they can't keep bringing the Strip Mine back from the graveyard. There's a lot of weird things banned on here. And some of them, you know, make sense. Some of them are even in line with the most similar format, which is Dual Commander. But some of them are just like a weird feature of this format. Now, do I think that we should take the Dual Commander ban list and just add it into Brawl? No, but I think that it's a pretty good, like, thing to look at and test with. You take a couple cards, you ban them, you see what it's like. You take a couple cards, you ban them, you see what it's like. You take some cards, you unban them, you see what it's like. And I think that it's a great guideline to start with. Dual Commander being a 1v1 20 life point commander. It's a pretty cool format. It is fairly similar to Brawl. Now, the cards banned here, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see an adjustment of this ban list, and the fact that we finally got a ban in Brawl means that could happen. Now, right now, they only ever ban cards wholesale. They don't ban as commander. They don't ban Ragavan as commander. They don't ban a Johnny as commander. But I feel like there are certain cards that in a format where you have a commander, you either have to remove them completely from the format, which denies their fair usage, like Raphaelos, or you need to ban them as commander. Raphaelos in the 99, he's not getting recast that often, so he's fine. Raphaelos as commander, especially as the number of Red and 6 decks falls, as they can't loop Strip Mine, is going to be really, really annoying. Very swingy. I would count that as fast mana. And speaking of fast mana, they didn't ban all the fast mana. They didn't ban Exploration. They didn't ban Burgeoning. They didn't ban these cards that were added randomly into Arena, which I should also mention that cards just kind of get added into Arena. The Arena anthologies, they get announcements, you can buy them in the store, and they introduce some hyper powerful cards. But it's not always these announced purchasable things. Sometimes cards just show up. Like these. When the Vintage Cube came out, they made a bunch of cards craftable. And many of these are actually good and playable cards. Cards like Snuff Out and Fire Blast. These free removal spells. Pyrokinesis as well. It is so strange to see these cards added into the format with no announcement. People oftentimes do not know that these are available until you run into them in the queue. You just are like suddenly, oh, Lightning Greaves is lethal? It's in here, Dak? Dak is using Mycosynth to turn my stuff into artifacts and steal it? Leovold's here? He's banned in Commander. Weird. Strange. They add these in. I want you to look at, by the way, the search term I had to use for this. S:, in quotations, cube-52.60, quote. Yeah, sure. set code. The Arena Anthology ones, at least they like kind of make sense, but there are cards that like if you want to find them in Arena because they've been introduced through no particular release, they are only craftable as individual cards, you have to know their set code and type their set code or the name of the actual card in there. Did they announce these cards? Sort of. In the inbox on Arena, there's a weekly announcement. And in the weekly announcements, if you open them up, sometimes they will link to a secondary page. And on that secondary page, talking about certain formats like the vintage/powered cube, you can scroll down to the very bottom and see a list of the craftable cards. But that's not being announced in the client. It's not a thing that popped up on the home screen like, you can now craft blank. It's not here. Instead, sometimes you find out about cards through banned and restricted announcements, which you heard me mention this before. You might have been thinking, what is Amy talking about? Wow, the way this page loads is weird. Trying to scroll up to the top. I talked about Mystical Tutor and Entomb. They're from a product that we were told is not coming to digital. These Avatar: The Last Airbender Commander Bundle. That is this set of cards right here, the Commander's Bundle cards, and they are coming to Arena. This has been confirmed. I confirmed it through the devs on the Discord, which, by the way, if you ever want to get weird news announcements, sometimes the way you do that is by being in the Discord. It's the official Magic the Gathering Discord, and there's a channel called Arena Design Chat, where sometimes this is where announcements are made. Announcements like, let me see if this comes in here. Yes, those cards are coming. Soul Ring is not included. Also, the fact that we are not getting wild cards for the bans. Sorry, wait, we're not getting wild cards? Yeah, typically when you ban a card in Arena, you get wild cards for it. They did not do it for Brawl. And before anybody says, oh, well, maybe it's because like it's hard to code, like just refunding one wild card because it's only one copy. We totally had wild cards refunded before. Anyway, this was an announcement that happened after the bans were announced. So many people had crafted copies of the cards thinking that they were going to get a refund. They did not get a refund. That sucks. So yeah, it's kind of like saying we're not a real format. So these cards, I guess, are being added to Arena, with the exception of one, in that Soul Ring. Now these cards are all highly playable Commander cards. Some of them are actually already in Arena, like Gamble. Now I like the arts on this, but you know what I don't like? Fierce Guardianship. I also have some troubles with like the Entomb, Enlightened Tutor, Mystical Tutor. They are, and like Worldly Tutor helping out like various combo decks. That's not my main concern. This cycle of cards, oftentimes called the Fierce Guardianship cycle, is a series of free spells. Now, these spells are free to cast if you control your commander, which gets stronger the lower cost your commander is. If you are running a 1 or 2 mana commander, think Tameo, then this is a free protective spell. So is Deflecting Swat, which is, I would say, not as good as Fierce Guardianship, but still quite good, and Deadly Rollick, which is removal. Flawless Removal does occasionally see play. It helps protect your white creature-based decks. And Obscuring Haze, I've never actually seen cast. But that's just because it's a fog. People don't play that many fogs. Tameo Turbo Friends, or Super Friends will have it. Turbo Fog. Whatever. That's like the deck where I would expect to see this. SWAT is much funnier than Guardianship, especially if you don't actually have other cards. But those cards, like, I'm looking at the cards that are banned and had been pre-banned in Brawl, and I'm looking at these free spells, and I'm looking at what they said in this article about how they don't want these things that give you a free advantage. And I'm wondering, where was the communication issue? And before anybody says, oh, well, maybe Blake misspoke in weekly MTG about these cards coming to Arena, you know, he's not always perfect. Okay, then why is it that when I go to the card gallery, and let me first just show a card that is going to be in Arena and what it shows on the page. Oops, I clicked on it. My bad. No, I don't want to be here. I want to show that they have Magic the Gathering Arena wildcards, Magic Arena limited packs, and Magic Arena store packs as the source where you can get Aang the Last Airbender, this card that is coming to Arena. Now, if I look up Deadly Rollick. Oh, they added this. So yesterday, this actually did not say Magic Arena wildcard. It actually showed all 4 of the cards as not being crafted. They must have had like an emergency. Guys, you need to show it. Amy's complaining on the internet. Sneaky. It did not have that. I have screenshots to show it from yesterday about it not being on there. Actually, let me show that screenshot right here. Here we go. Fierce Guardianship. See that? See that? Right there? It said only Commander's Bundle. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Anyways, we have these cards now being added to Arena. We have, I would say, kind of problematic cards, but when are they coming? They pre-banned them in Historic. Are they being added to Brawl? Because these are Commander cards. Where else would you play them? Well, some of them, like the Tutor Cycle and Entomb, you would be able to play outside of Commander formats. But the Fierce Guardianship Cycle is very much for Brawl. Like, where else would it be? By the way, here, I actually had Watsy Ian say the gallery was a miscommunication with the web team. That's what they're saying. I think that somebody changed their mind and they added them later. So Watsy Dave, this is a Wizards of the Coast employee in the Discord, said, to be clear, the cycle of free Commander spells included with the TLA Commander Bundle is coming to Arena. So just confirming that. They will release after the Avatar set launch. By the way, that's actually TLE Commanders, like the set code. When? How long after? These cards will not be legal in the current Brawl format. Now that sentence, by the way, I've seen a lot of people misinterpret. We hear the feedback being people in the Discord saying, oh god, why would you ever add these to the format, and are sensitive to concerns about the free spells being legal in Brawl. We'll have more information closer to the release of those cards later in the year. Now, the current Brawl format does not mean these will never be coming to Brawl. What it means is they're not going to be in Brawl upon the set's release. They could be added whenever they do get added to the client, or this could be a thing where they're only legal in, I guess, ranked or competitive Brawl, whatever they want to call it, timeless Brawl. Whatever new format they introduce. That's how a lot of people interpreted this. I interpreted it as, oh yeah, well, they're not legal in the format yet just because, like, they haven't been added yet. Like, they're not there, which is different. That's like, those are two different statements that you could get out of this statement. So yeah, I do not want to see those cards coming. If you talk to pretty much anybody who has been involved in, like, managing Commander as a format, they all agree that this card and its surrounding cards are a mistake. I'm pretty sure, like, I DM'd Olivia and I DM'd Rachel Weeks, my buds who help manage Commander as a format. I was like, why are they making me put up with Fierce Guardianship and Brawl? Why would they hurt me like this? And they're like, question mark, question mark, question mark. Do they hate Brawl? Do they hate Brawl? Yeah, they do. It seems sometimes like they do hate Brawl, which is a shame. Because I love Brawl, and I've been promoting it since its digital version. Like, Brawl, before we had a separation of Standard Brawl and Historic Brawl, when we had Brawl added to Arena, it was actually done as a paid event queue. And there was like a thing where you could play it for free on Wednesdays. It was very strange. They even added some cards individually into Brawl through this, like Reese the Redeemed and the Gitrog Monster. It was a cool way of adding cards into Arena, but it was for a limited paid-only format. When they turned that format into a queue, that's when I started Brawl Stars. Because I wanted to show people, look at all of the amazing things that you can do in this format. Look at all the commanders we could do. And this was Standard Brawl at the time. When we got Historic Brawl added in, which was not too long after, they banned a couple cards, they changed things around, and we had what most people would think of as Brawl today. Now, Brawl has changed so much since it started existing because we've had more and more sets get released. The sets being released year by year keep increasing. The number of new and novel cards and old cards being added into Arena keeps increasing, which means that the format has changed and accelerated and gotten more and more powerful, for better and for worse. If you want to play, by the way, very low-powered Brawl, I will recommend Standard Brawl. It's really fun for showing, like, legendary cards that aren't strong enough for Historic Brawl, especially the ones from Final Fantasy. There's going to be a lot of ones from Avatar that fit in well there, but you won't be able to play the Jumpstart Legends in that because they're not going to be legal. This is a format that I have pretty much dedicated myself to as a content creator. Not because it's where the views were. No, I got actually more views on my content when I did more limited and standard. It took a long time to cultivate an audience for Brawl because at the time I was doing things, Brawl was not a popular format. It was like the forgotten stepchild that was off to the side, not getting bans for 4 years, because why manage the format when you can just let Amy keep producing weird decks? And a lot of people love Brawl, especially other content creators. LVD and like the CGB and various people who I won't name because they don't actually like being recognized that they're playing in the queue. They all play Brawl and they love Brawl. In fact, I'm pretty sure CGB has said before that if he could play more Brawl on his channel and still like make the living that he does, he would, because Brawl's incredible. It's a fun format, but it's more fun when it's managed, and these bans are a great first step. It is absolutely not perfect, and I think that if you want to ever make this into a ranked or competitive format, you're going to need a lot more management. And to the people who say, well, what if they just make it so the matchmaking algorithm is public? That doesn't fix it either. Making the matchmaking algorithm public is actually a good way to help people figure out their decks and essentially what bracket they want to play in. If every single card is correctly balanced, frequently rebalanced, and there is, I don't believe, a person at Wizards of the Coast who is even capable of doing that. You would need a very well-written algorithm that is able to manage the data incoming and outcoming with every single new card release to rebalance it. Now, is that impossible? That's the kind of thing that machine learning is used for. No, it's not impossible. It's just incredibly difficult and needs somebody who's well-trained in that specific type of data science with tons and tons and tons of moving factors to manage. This is the kind of thing that, like, you hire a couple of these people at, like, a FANG company, like your Amazons and your Googles and stuff, and they are extremely well paid. And there's very few of these people that exist out there that have this level of competence. And before you say, oh, just ask ChatGPT to do it, ChatGPT can't do that. Also, stop burning down the rainforest, you punk. This is the sort of thing where it's like, if you are a player that has been trying to make their deck have a certain weight to match differently, I think that you're playing the game wrong. And I think that it really doesn't matter that much. The most important thing should be your commander's matchmaking. Now, if they essentially put the commanders in brackets and said, yeah, they'll always match like in the middle, one up or one down from where they are, and they are actually bracketed, and they made that public, I think that that could work. That said, I want you to understand that the number of legendary cards that are in Arena is huge. If we do format Historic Brawl, and then we do is Commander. How many Commanders are legal in Brawl? And this is, by the way, before Avatar comes out. 1,442, huh? Dang. That's crazy, dog. And how many new ones are coming in Avatar? Oh, you know, another 100 or so. And we're going to be getting even more every year, especially with more universes beyond, where there's more legends with every single set. Sure is commanders around here. Yeah, it sure is. So is that a way that they could manage the format? Yes. Do I think that they have the tech and manpower? Probably not yet. But they could have somebody do more basic data analytics on cards that the community highly talks about, like Strip Mine. Did you enjoy being Strip Mine looped, my friends? No, you probably didn't. And to the people who were the strip mine loopers, I hope you were just doing it because you knew it was an efficient way to win and not because you enjoyed it, because that is sick. Doing it once? Sure. You've done it. You've accomplished it. Doing it 10 times a day for your daily wins? You monster. Yeah, I'm talking about that. Yeah, the way that the matchmaking works now is oftentimes we will have slightly lower powered versions of the same deck archetypes. Somebody in chat, SJ Mace talks about the totally not a Teferi decks that have a Proft in the command zone, where it's like, yeah, that was matching too low. You also have newly printed cards that don't have a correctly assigned weight, or ones that match into things that immediately hose them even though they're brand new cards. I ran into a bunch of newer commanders that, like, when I recorded them for Brawl Stars, I would just match into things that were definitely stronger than them. And it's like, it would typically be new commanders matching into other new commanders. But when the new commanders that are coming out are the ones that are, like, at around the same time, we had Edge of Eternity's commanders. So we had the cards from Edge of Eternities coming out, and oh, that's fun. These cards just came out. That's neat. And what are they gonna match into? What are the Spider-Man cards gonna match into? They're gonna match into the Arena Anthology 1, or sorry, Arena Anthology 2 is the one that had the cards in them. The Ren and Sixes and Rafellos, which are considerably stronger than the random, like, uncommon that I'm brewing from those sets. But doing that balancing before a card comes out also requires knowledge of the card and knowledge of how powerful you expect it to be. This, by the way, also includes the like alchemy cards, like Vivisa. How do I even spell Vivisa? If I put Lander token in, there we go. Vivisa. Visa. Like this is a lot stronger than almost all the other things that came out and should not have matched against them. This is also an example of, like, alchemy card design being just wrong. I showed this card to Gavin Verhey and to Brian Kibler at a dinner, and I think that, like, Brian actually talked about this in a video, how this card is ridiculous for its mana cost. It is way too strong and has no sense being released the way that it is. We were talking about, like, fun ways to rebalance it, like making it itself a 2/1 to make it much more vulnerable, making it so only it gets to attack, because so it's not making flying lander tokens that are also creatures, but just lander tokens. There's a whole lot of different ways that you could change this card to make it less powerful, especially as a commander. But it wasn't designed as a commander, but it totally was designed, because for some reason they value alchemy as a format when doing rebalances more than they value historic Brawl. Or just Brawl. Even though Brawl is significantly more played as a format. We know this. They have published that number of, like, yeah, Brawl's the second most played format in Arena. Damn straight it is, because we're out here loving it. We're out here having a good time. And we're out here having fun in spite of hyper powerful cards that knock us down, because we'll get back up, we'll brew some more jank, and we'll have some fun. And I think we'll have even more fun if they keep banning things. And maybe unbanning things. And trying things out. But the thing that they need to be is careful and reactive. If they unban a card or introduce a card, and it sees a huge number of wins, if it is getting, even when people start adding hate cards to their decks to deal with them, if it is seeing too many wins, you need to take something away from that deck. I think Banned as Commander is a tool that they can use. I think that, like, using digital rebalances is something that most people will not agree with, but it is a tool at their disposal. If they ever want this to be a ranked format, like, yeah, you need to manage it, or you're just gonna get people being salty and sad, just like Standard. And Standard, I think, is going to be a lot happier, because now they don't have to deal with, well, a lot of different cards. There's actually a bunch of cards banned in Standard right now. All of these, I think it's 10 different cards. And this helps people be happier, is having these cards out of the format. I think that more cards will be banned. And also, it's worth noting that they are planning on doing bans a little bit more frequently. Part of that is because of the 3-year standard cycle. And I wonder if we'll ever get cards banned in Standard Brawl. That, like, Standard Brawl has a good number of players. And if there is a hyper-dominant strategy, it would be nice to see that strategy adjusted. Just because we're the forgotten formats of Arena doesn't mean that we're not here and people aren't playing it. So I'm hopeful for the future. I'm a little worried about some of the cards that they're adding in. And I'm going to remain positive because that's the kind of person that I am. So I would say here's to Brawl getting bans and pop a bottle of champagne, but it is currently before noon, and I think I'll just settle for a cup of coffee that may or may not have whiskey in it. Cheers, everybody, and here's to a fine future format.